What up, what up? It's the Athletic Hockey Show. It is December 17th. 8 shopping days before Christmas. Is that how that works? I feel like that's not how the calculation works.
I don't think the 25th counts.
For some of us, it might.
It might. You've left it too late if you're at the gas station at 6 a.m. But
I've done Christmas Eve presents. I've done it.
I've been at the Eaton Center in Toronto on like the 23rd or maybe even the 24th, and I was playing for the Marlies at the time. And one of the news, I can't remember if it was like CP24, one of those news people, they were in the mall.
Like, here are the losers at the mall on December 24th.
And they were like, they had the camera going, and this guy's grabbing people for interviews, essentially asking them, hey, why are you doing your Christmas shopping on the 24th? And he not grabs me, but he's like, hey, sir, can we talk to you? I'm like, you know what? I probably better not. I don't need to be on the 6 o'clock news.
You have like the thought bubble with a Lou like flashing above your head. You're like, probably not the best idea.
Like, look at that loser shopping on the 24th. Wait, I recognize that loser.
Wait a second.
Yeah, my boss is a jerk. He doesn't give me any time off, so I'm stuck here.
I've done airport gifts before. I bought my mother a gift at a Brookstone in an airport.
You could make it happen.
Like 2011.
You honestly could make it. There's some airports with some pretty snazzy little outlets, and no one could know the difference.
Yeah, they're not giving you much of a discount at those. You're paying the jackass tax on
juice, baby.
On doing that. All right, I'm Sean Gentille. They are Sean Mcindoe and Frank Corrado. Fellas, let's just start in Pittsburgh, as we so often do. We had it's so funny to phrase this as like a revenge game for Tristan Jarry last night. Tristan Jarry versus Stuart Skinner. Oilers versus Pens. Oilers win 6-4. We had the living manifestation of the hockey version of the Spider-Man meme pointing at each other last night, where you have two guys who are traded for each other 5 days ago. They have of course end up facing off last night. Let's start with that. We can't call this a Tristan Jarry revenge game, right? That's incorrect.
No, we can't call it the Tristan Jarry revenge game. But man, I wonder if at some point if Stuart Skinner, does he have any way of getting revenge on Connor McDavid for what he did to him? And he would have seen that like a million times as a spectator in a game, and maybe 2 million times as a goaltender in practice. But there it was, Connor McDavid flying right through the middle of the ice. And I think that could have been prime Marty Brodeur, and he still wouldn't have gotten to that post to make that save. Like, there was no one making that save. And then Stuart Skinner, even after the game, was talking about it. He goes, I've seen it so many times, I just don't know what you could possibly do. Like, I didn't want to overplay it. But he goes, next time, I'm just going to be aggressive, and I'm just going to go for it. And like, I don't know if you get a next time on that one, man. That one happens pretty quick.
Look, I'll just say this. I kind of can't believe, and I'm very happy that both teams started the guy after the trade. Because I was putting together the newsletter that went out Tuesday morning. So I'm putting it together on Monday, and at that point they haven't announced starters yet. And I was like, this is a good angle. The two teams are playing each other a few days after a trade, but they're not going to start these guys. They never do. Goalies are such, fragile little snowflakes that they're not going to, maybe we'll get one of them. We're not going to get both. And we did. And that made it great. It was the most intriguing game of the night for sure. And hopefully you bet the over/under of 9.5 because it hit. Both teams I'm sure feel amazing about their new goalies after.
Okay,
that.
So if we had to guess the score prior to this game taking place, and we looked at who was in net, and we said it's Skinner versus Jarry, it's the Oilers versus the Penguins, would anyone have said it was going to be a 3-2 game, or did we automatically go to like the 5-4?
I think I specifically would have said 6-4 Oilers. Like, I should have actually done like the exact score bet if I would have had the interest in tracking that down.
It was going to be 6-4 or 1-0. That would have been the other option. One of those nights where the hockey gods go, oh, you guys all think you know, all right, we're going to flip it the other way. But no, 3-2 was the last score that it was going to be.
No,
that was,
for sure.
We knew we were going to get something. I was hoping for a goalie fight. Didn't work out, but, maybe next time.
So now that this trade is made, we'll see how, there's a lot of hockey that needs to be played, and playoffs is the big one. No one's going to be judged on their regular season success now that both these, goalies are in different areas. And really, we're watching Jarry more than Skinner. That's where all the eyes are going to go.
Mm-hmm.
For me, how much better does Jarry make the Edmonton Oilers, or how much of an improvement is he over Stuart Skinner? If I had to put that in a percentage, am I thinking 10% at the most? That's kind of how I feel. And if Jarry plays well versus Skinner playing well, because we have seen it where Stuart Skinner in the playoffs last year against Vegas, last year against Dallas, is sharp and dialed in, and man, he can really do it for you. But the highs and lows, the lows are really low for him. I think Tristan Jarry has a higher ceiling as a goaltender, but Stuart Skinner is more proven in the playoffs. So how much better can we possibly say the Oilers are at this point? Although I give them a lot of credit for finally making a trade and saying, we're going to do this thing.
We got to do
it's
something.
Change for the sake of change.
Yeah, I think
that's it, right? That's one of those GM cliches. We don't make a change for the sake of making it. You needed to here. Going in to the playoffs with Stuart Skinner as your number one again was not something that would work. And I'll say two things here that it sounds like they're in conflict, but I really don't think they are. Number one, the Oilers absolutely had to make a change. They absolutely needed to move on from Stuart Skinner and bring in somebody else who could be an upgrade. Absolutely had to happen. If Stan Bowman, for some reason, couldn't find a way to put this together, we would have all been all over him, and rightly so. That's point one. Point number two, Stuart Skinner is not as bad as he's made out to be. Stuart Skinner is not some bum that was the sole reason that the Oilers didn't win multiple Stanley Cups. Stuart Skinner had his ups and downs, and some of the downs certainly cost that team. But he's not a bad goaltender in this league. So
you're right.
I get why the Oilers had to do something. Certainly, I mean, I can't. Me and guys like me have been banging this drum for over a year now. You've got to go out and get a goalie. I can't turn around now and go, oh, why'd you do that?
Not that one. Yeah.
But maybe not that one. And that's part of this is the timing on this. It's only mid-December. We've got a couple months to the deadline. Is there a scenario where if Tristan Jarry isn't presenting himself as a clear upgrade, I mean, the Oilers do still have time to make another move. Do they have the assets to do it? Do they have the cap? I don't know about that, but maybe there are scenarios here where Stan Bowman isn't completely locked in here. But clearly you only get so many swings at it, and he took one of the swings, and this was the guy that he landed on, and I can't say it's the right guy, but then again, who else was out there when you've got to make a move?
I think the really frustrating part of the Tristan Jarry experience is that if it's, say, we're right before the Olympic break or whatever, and he's been in the tank for 5 games, that's not any kind of indicator on what he's going to look like a game from then or 10 games from them or a month from then or a year. He's the most volatile goaltender I've ever consistently watched. And I think that's kind of indicative of something that Frankie said or sort of reinforces that I think the floor, frankly, is lower than Skinner. And I think the ceiling is maybe a little bit higher because he does have, plus athletic ability for the position. I would say he's not Marc-Andre Fleury out there, but he's, good at scrambling and he's quick and reactive. And I think to some extent you can see the argument where, that'll play better for Edmonton since they're so prone to giving up 10 bell, catastrophic chances, based on what we've seen from the Evan Bouchards of the world over the last however long. But man, it's such a dice roll, and even moving forward, you you don't know what you're getting from that guy on a game-to-game basis, let alone month-to-month basis. And I think that makes it hard to assess it in any real way, and also hard to predict, whatever they're going to do next.
The Stuart Skinner thing, I think we all forget that he sort of got thrust into this position out of necessity.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Edmonton Oilers went out for the 2022-2023 season, they signed Jack Campbell to a 5-year deal at $5 million. Stuart Skinner was supposed to be the guy that plays, I don't know, 35% of those games.
Yeah, right. 24 games a season or something. Yeah.
He was not meant at the time to be the starting goaltender, but credit to him, when Campbell sort of, faltered out, Stuart Skinner played well enough to earn the trust of his staff at the time to say, okay, well, we're just going to go with this guy. It's an internal solution for us. And at times has played well in his career. But I think we should never lose sight of that he didn't get like his sort of long runway. He got thrown into the fire. And, how has that affected his development as time has gone on? And the other thing with Jarry, like I played with Jarry. We played together in Wilkes-Barre before he kind of arrived at the NHL level. He's going back somewhere where he's comfortable and it's familiar. It's Edmonton. He won a WHL championship. I believe he won a Memorial Cup there. Like this is somewhere where he should feel pretty comfortable. And if anything, I think we talked about this last year with the potential of like a John Gibson trade, right? Where things weren't going great for Gibson. They were fine in Anaheim last year, but it was like, there was this year after year after year where you're like, okay, is he ever going to find his game again? And I kind of said, well, maybe he goes to Edmonton. He feels rejuvenated. You're playing with two of the best players in the world. You're on a team with Stanley Cup aspirations. Like that does something for you mentally. I think there's two things that go well for Tristan Jarry here that might help him kind of, find that consistency. But I'll tell you guys quickly, like Jarry as a rookie in the AHL was pretty funny. We would start practice at 10:30 in Wilkes-Barre. Jarry would start practice at around 10:40 because the first warm-up drill, everyone would score on him. And we'd just be like, Jars, wake up. Like practice has started already. Like, let's go. Like you just go on low blocker, low glove, low blocker, low glove. We've been on the ice for 20 minutes already.
I think someone should have told him that overtime started against the Islanders in that playoff game a few years back.
He's a nice guy. I hope nothing but the best for him. I got to
always
see him
seemed like a nice dude.
And yeah, he's always gives people the time of day. Very well thought out in his answers. He gets interviewed. So I truly hope it works out for him in Edmonton.
One more note coming out of that Oilers game. Leon Draisaitl. 1,000 points. He had 4 last night. It's shocking. He had a big night against his former guy. First German player, 5th fastest non-North American player to hit it. The 103rd overall player to hit 1,000 points, which does that seem high or does that seem low to us?
That seems appropriate to me.
I probably would have guessed 100 dead
thing,
on.
But I don't think... I wouldn't have guessed there's going to be 500 players. I also wouldn't have guessed that there's going to be 50. I don't know.
It feels right. A little high just because, I mean, that's one per year, basically, in the NHL. But obviously for the first, however many years, nobody's hitting that. So I guess it's about right. I guess and it's nice to see guys still hitting it now. I mean, half that list is probably 1980s guys.
Right.
Yeah.
3 good seasons back then.
Did you guys... Did you see the T-shirts the Oilers all wore after the games? Those were phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, it's Leon Draisaitl, I guess at one of the Oilers' weddings this summer. Maybe it was his wedding. Smoking a dart, and they put it on the T-shirt, and the T-shirt said something like smoking his way to 1,000? Yeah. It was so good. Well done.
Here's my question on that. If they don't win, do those shirts still come out, or like what's the protocol there?
Yeah.
Did they get shipped to some third world country with the
there's gonna be kids
with the Blue Jays World Series gear,
kids running around in Blue Jays World Series hats and Draisaitl smoking T-shirts.
Yeah.
How many former teammates? You don't have to name any names here, Frank. How many teammates, like ballpark, would you say that you would classify as smokers?
Like guys that hack darts
consistently. Not just like not just like we'll
Okay, I'll tell you this
We'll bang
one.
a couple
So-
at a wedding.
A few for sure. In junior,
He's
my
thinking
first
about
year,
this. I can tell. Like I can see the
What
I
do
can
I
see the
say?
gears turning.
I got to tell you this story while I rack my brain around how many guys would have hacked darts, but not consistently. It's more like if it's a night out at the bar and it goes a little deep into the night, that's when maybe you might see a dart or two come out, maybe a dart or three. But in junior, my first year, I didn't have a car, right? I'm 16 years old. I don't have a driver's license. So you rely on veteran guys to give you rides. And I walk into, and you got to keep in mind, like I'm 16, I'm like bright eyed, like really green. And I step into the passenger seat of one of the guys' cars, and there's a pack of darts sitting in there. And I don't know, we're all athletes aspiring to be NHL players. I'm like, why the hell would you have darts, man? Like, what's going on here? And I look at him and I go, what's going on with the darts? He goes, oh, I'm trying to quit chew. Like, okay,
There you go.
Sure, that's gonna help.
So incredibly relatable, ping ponging between nicotine products when you're trying to quit one or the other. I've been there, my man.
So I got a pack of Belmont Lights today.
The other thing coming out of that game, Connor McDavid, 2 goals, 2 assists. Fellas, he's played 7 games since we floated. Maybe we'd rather have McKinnon than him.
Don't say we.
Some of us were maybe stronger in that.
I blame the Quizmaster. That's who I blame.
20 points in 7 games. He's oh god. He took the scoring lead briefly last night. McKinnon then ended up taking it back. So good god.
Yeah, but
you're welcome. You're welcome, Edmonton. I suppose is the way to put it.
I just called his game on Sunday in Montreal, and him and Draisaitl had a fairly quiet night after kind of going gangbusters the night before in Toronto. But what this guy's doing right now is he's shooting the puck. Like he's actually saying shooting the puck has become an option for me. It's not option 3. Like last night, 6 shots. He had 3 against Montreal, 2 against Toronto, 4 against Detroit, 6 against Buffalo, 5 against Winnipeg, 7 against Seattle. That's when it all started, the Seattle game, because they got shut out against Minnesota. And then after that, it's like I can get so many looks at the net because of my speed, and I'm taking them. And this guy's on fire right now. He's reached that point of the season where we say you can't slow McDavid down anymore.
Terrifying. Because I still maintain that 1 year that he had, 64 goals, whatever it was, and won the Rocket Richard. Like that was, I am convinced, because we all blew so much smoke up the behind of Austin Matthews as this great goal scorer that Connor McDavid was like, all right, you want to see goals? We're going to do goals this year. And then he went back to being the 150 point guy who's mostly a setup guy. If he's back in that mode now, if he's going, you know what? All right, I'll just do it on my own. It might be over for a lot of the Pacific Division at the very least, and maybe beyond.
Yeah, like we said, we thank you, Connor McDavid, for subscribing to the show, for watching our YouTube channel. He's obviously in on it.
A ring to Sean Gentille in June.
Or just send him one of the Dart T-shirts. At least you guys got extras for sure.
That's fine.
I might take that over the ring. Honestly,
I would rather have that. I think that's more fitting for me. All right, folks, stick around. We'll be right back. We're going to talk trade board. We're going to talk Sabres. Maybe a couple other things will pop up. Coming back in a minute. All right, boys, we are back. It's a little more, as we record this, a little more than 2 days from the trade freeze. It starts on December 19th. It lasts until December 28th. And also, kind of crucially, it's the deadline for someone to be moved in a salary retention trade while maintaining eligibility to be moved in a second salary retention trade this spring, whenever the trade deadline freezes. It's something we've seen more over the last couple years, where you see teams start flipping guys, retaining, and whatever else. It's a CBA thing. You got to wait 75 days until you can do it again. And because the way the schedule's shaking out, 75 days from now will be after the trade deadline. So that's an important little bit of business, isn't it, Mcindoe? I know this is something that caught your eye.
Yeah, and this is, if people are confused or what, this is one of those things that's in the new CBA that the CBA doesn't take effect for a year, but they fast track some of the stuff because, it's the NHL. If you can make trading less likely and make the rumor mill less fun for fans, you got to do that as soon as possible. You can't wait another year. So, this is yet another way to tie the hands of GMs, and you're going to hear it like in January, and you're going to hear GMs go, "Oh, we can't do double retention anymore." Well, I mean, you can, but now's the time to do it, and we'll see. I don't have my hopes up. We're going to see any major moves, but maybe not. Maybe they'll surprise us. They showed us last Friday it actually is possible to make trades during the season. So
Trades are
let's
hard.
see.
But you know what feels like it's more possible, and it seems like it happens more often than a big trade. Like the Quinn Hughes thing is such a massive, colossal thing. That's almost like it's a one of one. It's an outlier. It's like guy is unhappy with situation, so he goes to the team and says, "Hey, can you guys move me?" GM says, "Well, we'll try, but you kind of make too much money, so no one wants to take on your contract. So you want to terminate it, and then you'll sign for pennies on the dollar somewhere, and that's probably how you end up going somewhere else." Like it feels like that's sort of been the workaround this year in a couple different scenarios. But I almost wonder now, because this rule is in place and there's not that much happening, and like, quite honestly, as much as I just said, like, teams don't want to overspend on players, they're not in the same kind of cap crunch that they used to be, where they had to have, all this double retention going around. Like, I kind of just wonder if it's like, it's obsolete in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't need to do the double retention. And if you do, then yeah, you have a little bit of runway that you have to do it.
Yeah, it's less of a necessary thing maybe this year than it has been in the past, but it can still affect prices, I think, and it's not going to stop a deal. It's certainly less likely to stop a deal from getting done, which wasn't the case in the past. But it could affect the overall package, which is kind of where I'm looking at on it. Like here's a great example. Just talked for a while about the Jarry Skinner trade. No salary retention in that, which is kind of wild on Kyle Dubas's end of thing. So that's decent work by him. But because there was no salary retention at all, that means that if he wants to, he can trade, say, Brett Kulak down the road, and it doesn't have to be in 2 days. Like he could do that. He could do that in February and still make it happen. So it's interesting. It's in the weeds, but I think it is, it's an interesting piece to have on the board moving forward. It's just whatever. It's fun to talk about trades since we never actually see any of them because they're just so hard. They're so hard to do.
Who
right?
complained about salary retention?
Someone did.
But whose problem was it? Because if I'm a contending team, if I'm a buyer, I like it because I can get somebody and fit them under the cap. If I'm a seller, in theory, I like it because it broadens the market of teams that can get my $5 million guy because we can knock the price down a couple of times. And if I'm one of the teams in the middle, okay, I spend some money, I get a free draft pick out of it. I would love to know who had a bug up their behind and said, not only does this need to be in the CBA, but we need to fast track it early.
It's like LTIR adjacent, right? It's like cap circumvention adjacent, where people were just so, angry and pissed over the Golden Knights continuing, machinations there, that I think stuff like that just kind of got dragged along, maybe when it shouldn't have.
The thing about the LTIR was you had to be a team that was willing to play a large portion of your regular season without a star player and know that everything is going to be okay. And trust me, other teams could have done it. Mm-hmm. But did they have the appetite for what could have gone wrong if the Toronto Maple Leafs decided we're shutting down Austin Matthews for 4 months, 5 months, and we'll see him come playoff time? I don't know, but those teams had the appetite to do it with whether it's Stone or Kucherov, and not everyone sort of has that appetite. I wonder, like, to DGB's point, like, there's a GM group chat out there. Who's the most likely to say, I need to speak to the manager? Or like, who's the Karen of the NHL GMs that has to go to Gary and Bill and say, how are we allowing the double retention to happen. Like, who is that?
Yeah, it's some GM who's like, guys, my fans and my media and my owner are asking me why I'm not making trades with this double retention. Get it out of here. We got to fix this so that nobody expects me to do my job. But yeah, you're right. There's a group chat with all of them, and then there's a separate group chat with the ones who actually get to speak. Because remember, like Kyle Dubas wasn't even allowed to talk his first few years when he went to these meetings. I'm guessing on job number 2, he probably is allowed to, maybe make a facial expression at least every now and then. But yeah, I wonder. So if you're an NHL GM listening to this and you're like, no, there's only one group chat, I got bad news, man.
This is just, then you're not in the good one.
Mm-hmm.
This is the equivalent, like anytime stuff like this comes up, I think of a situation at a restaurant. Like it's like the old bit from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Dennis orders their food from them. orders off the menu for them at the restaurant. I just assume it's just like Doug Armstrong or something being like, yeah, he'll have the fettuccine Alfredo actually when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Does Jarmo get to order his own stuff now?
It's a good question.
Or like because he's grandfathered in from the decade in Columbus, or does he go right to the back of the line and he's sitting there with Quinn Hughes and whoever else?
What a weird, what a whole weird transaction. Like when Jarmo gets hired, Kevyn Adams has to be looking over his shoulder thinking like, my replacement is literally sitting right next to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if things start to go south, like you can see the writing on the wall as far as what's going to happen. But man, I texted my buddy Marty Biron and I said,
pick up that name while you can.
Yeah.
I said, Marty, it must be so depressing being a Sabres fan. And he said, why? I said, constantly you have the opportunity to start this thing with like a blank canvas and bring in people, a team that like can get this thing going right. And they've messed it up so many times, whether it's coaches, players, general managers. And here's the opportunity again. And you're just going to bring in, and maybe he's gotten better. Like maybe he's learned from what's gone down in Columbus, but you're going to bring in a guy who's kind of known for, I don't know, like, is it shooting from the hip in Columbus and doing some things that were questionable and not bringing that team anywhere? I don't know, man. It was weird. Like you have this great opportunity and it feels like you're almost just throwing yourself right back to where you were.
I think Jarmo's tendency to act like, say what you will about his time in Columbus. I mean, the dude had a prejudice for action, right? Like he wasn't afraid to make moves. Say what you will about the efficacy of those moves. But I think that's, if I'm a Sabres fan, that's like the solace that I take, is that you have someone in the chair now who, actually seems like their default setting is to do stuff, and that is not. I know we're thinking of the Josh Norris and Dylan Cousins trade. Maybe put that off to the side. But ultimately, Adams's issue there was that he just didn't. There was paralysis there that
were always
that seeped in.
Always waiting. Yeah, and I mean that's certainly not unique to Buffalo, but that wasn't the Jarmo Kekelainen way of doing things in Columbus. And no, of course they didn't all work out. He was there forever. I mean, you're going to find some things that didn't work. Obviously, the Mike Babcock situation, he wears that. But
that's the one that sticks out to me, man. I'm sorry.
I forgot about that.
That one, no, but that's the one that sticks out to me. And I'm like, it's a fireable offense when it happens. And then to 2 years later, essentially say, you're our guy. When there's a lot of very talented, smart individuals sitting out on the sidelines, I guess that's the one that I can't wrap my head around.
Here's what I'll say about that. I totally agree with you. Like Jarmo is, I try not to use the retread word because that makes people angry, but he is, right. Like he was a replacement level GM in Columbus ultimately. But I think when you look at the way things had worked in Buffalo, and Matt Fairburn's done a great job of laying this out on the site, really over the last couple years, starting particularly last offseason when the question, the fundamental question to the story that Matt wrote is like, how does Kevyn Adams still have this job, basically? the default mode in Buffalo was to basically basically to not hire anybody. You have Kevyn Adams, a guy who'd never done the job, whose rise to that job was completely non-standard, and then the people that he had working under him were also not experienced in any real way whatsoever. So I feel like when you look at the way the Sabres do things, the fact that they even made this change is kind of shocking, because it truly felt like Kevyn Adams was going to have the job for life, despite the results. So if this is what it took to get someone else in the job, the most uninspiring, mid-level replacement level dude in Jarmo, I think the Sabres fans should just take it. You say like, yeah, this guy wasn't great. He had the humiliation of the Babcock thing on his record. Like, so be it. We probably weren't going to do any better because of the shackles that have been placed on them by the ownership.
Well, that's it. And you can say, well, would there be better candidates out there? Maybe fresher sets of eyes. Maybe somebody who hasn't already been around the block a few times. Yeah, maybe.
Of course,
Buffalo's tried that, right? Not just Kevyn Adams, which was a weird kind of out of left field hire, but they did Jason Botterill, they did Tim Murray. They have been, trying to get the young up and coming GM, and it hasn't worked. One thing I do like about this from the perspective of a Sabres fan is Jarmo's been there, I think, the right amount of time, right? He was hired in May as an advisor. So he hasn't been around so long that you just point at him and say, well, he's just part of the problem. I mean, you see teams do that sometimes where they say, oh, it's not good enough. We're going to fire this guy, but we're going to promote the assistant who's been there for 5 years and in theory was part of all these decisions anyways. That's not the situation here, but he's at least been there long enough that, unlike bringing in somebody brand new right now in December, he's not going to play the card, you would hope, of, oh, I got to get the lay of the land. I need 6 months to figure out what's what and what's going on and, to really see everything with my own eyes. He's had his 6 months. He should be ready to go and ready to hit the ground running. And at the end of the day, could there have been other candidates out there? Almost certainly. What's the lineup look like of people who want to work for Terry Pegula in this stripped down front office?
This is beggars can't be choosers for Sabres fans, honestly. Like, would it be
especially
great
in the middle of a season where you're not getting someone else's assistant or, something like that. That's off the table. So,
well, you'd have to hire someone who's not currently working, right? And then that's a totally different pool. And how long have those guys been out? And then you're talking about that 6 months lay of the land, right? So he does have a head start. I guess now, like, if you're a Sabres fan, you're like, please just save us from whatever this is. But I don't know. I'm sure there's Sabres fans that look at this and they look at the standings and they say, that's probably where we're going to be. That's
no, I like.
How likely is it that we're moving up?
I sat there and just quasi defended it for 5. Like, I think it's going to work? Like, no, I don't. I don't think this is going to work out for Buffalo. But I think, like, given the totality of the situation and how much of a joke it has turned into over the last couple years, I'm like, okay, you might as well roll the dice on this one. And Frankie, you kind of alluded to this. We did, but both you guys did, really. We saw Jarmo come in, and he said specifically about Alex Tuch. I think that's the kind of talk that, if nothing else, like, that should bring some degree of relief to Sabres fans. Where Alex Tuch, he's almost a point per game player. He's been the most reliably, the most consistent, well-rounded forward, certainly on that in that group for the last couple years. Local guy, yada yada. He's a pending UFA. He's number 3 on CJ's new trade board. Jarmo comes in and says, like, I'm going to take charge of this. So, like, now saying that and doing it are certainly two separate things. But the fact that he's at least capable of coming in, being like, and saying in one way or another, like, this is a mess. This has gone on too long. I'm going to figure out what we're going to do ASAP. Like, that represents an actual upgrade on what the Sabres had been getting for the last few years.
At the end of the day, like, that taking charge of that means I'm going to open the pocketbook. That's what it means. Like, you can convince Alex Tuch to stay in Buffalo and sell him on your message if the price is right. So you're going to have to find a price because he ain't taking a discount. And if anything, he probably wants a little bit above market value. And Dregs was talking yesterday on Overdrive here in Toronto that Alex Tuch wants Adrian Kempe money, which is north of $10 million. Like all the contract sort of projection companies that we use to nail down these things, no one's really suggesting north of $10 million. Mm-hmm. So if Jarmo's taken charge of this deal, you can guarantee it starts with a 10 and it only goes up from there.
Oh, the Bills probably need a second wide receiver for next season. So Pagula's got his money.
Yeah.
What one last thing just on Jarmo that makes me, again, gives me a little bit of optimism if I'm Buffalo, because we're all kicking Kevyn Adams when he's down, and that's the nature of it, right? It's a tough job. You get evaluated for it. The success wasn't there. I will say one thing in defense of Kevyn Adams. He was right about the palm trees and the taxes and all that. I realize that felt like an excuse, and everybody got mad, and fans brought the inflatable trees and all that.
They're still mad about that, by the way. They're not getting over that one.
But he's right. Buffalo is not a desirable place for players right now, and they won't be until they start winning, which was what Kevyn Adams was making at his point. I would argue that if you're looking at comparable markets, I'm not sure there's a better comparison for Buffalo than Columbus. Another smallish market, doesn't have the weather, doesn't have the tax benefits and all of this other stuff. The fact that you're getting a guy from there, and by the way, he did okay attracting players. He got Johnny Gaudreau to go to Columbus. Not bad for a market that wasn't supposed to be on anybody's list. So, at the very least, you've got it. To me, if you bring in somebody from Tampa and suddenly they're going, okay, I'm going to do all the same stuff we did with the Lightning, and wait a second, why is nobody picking up the phone?
You got a different toolbox that you're working with.
There's a challenge here that is not unique to Buffalo, but is something that doesn't exist everywhere in the league. And they've got a guy who's used to working under that situation and, in theory at least, knows how to handle it.
To give him some credit on some of the trades that he's made, he's taken advantage of some situations, right? So he traded for Severson. I believe at the time, New Jersey, they couldn't afford that contract anymore. They traded for Provorov. Going back, they traded for Matthew Olivier, who's become a really good player for that team. At the time, he traded Voracek for Cam Atkinson. I don't even remember if Voracek was playing at that point. Anyways, I'm going back in time, but those are a few right off the top. The Olivier's become a staple there, and Provorov and Severson are obviously good, talented defensemen. So it's not like there's a horrible track record. It's just
he's also showed that he's whatever. It didn't always work, but he's shown the guts with Duchesne and Panarin and Bobrovsky and rolling the dice on rentals in some way, which if I'm the Sabres, man, I'm taking it. But man, Frank, you said it. It comes down to the money. The Blue Jackets, the Blue Jackets spent to the cap, and the Sabres have not. And that is the single most difficult thing to overcome. If you got a cheap owner, it doesn't matter what sport it is. If that's the way it goes, and if you have the reputation for being a place where guys aren't going to get paid, bad stuff happens. And I could go into a 15-minute long monologue about the Pittsburgh Pirates as it relates to the Buffalo Sabres. But
weren't they just in on someone? Who were they in on? They were in on a big time player.
Fake. We're not. We'll talk off mic about this. That's made.
They were in there, man. You hear the Pirates come up. You're like, what? No, they're not.
They were offering Kyle Schwarber less money than he was certainly going to get on the open market. It was complete fugazi nonsense. We can, like I said, we can text about this.
It was AI generated.
Frankie, before we let you go, I have one question I want to ask. Quinn Hughes back in the news. Obviously, he's got a new team. Minnesota's 2-0 with him, 11-2 goal differential. So it seems like Quinn Hughes pretty good at hockey. The specific thing I wanted to ask is that a new group of people are being exposed to the insane way he gets over the bench when he swings his entire. I'm like, if If you're listening, I'm drifting out of phrase here. Like he throws both legs over the side. So people who did not know that that's how Quinn get on the bench are getting exposed to it now, and I need to get the X player.
And now the Minnesota Wild are like must see hockey, which even with Kaprizov there, the Minnesota Wild were never really must see hockey. But it's our last show for a little bit, and this is something that I sort of develop as the year goes on. I like to watch every team early, right? So I watch all 32 at some point early in the season, and then I sort of develop like a do not watch list. And it's derived from my golf do not play list. You know, people invite you to certain courses, and it's like, oh, we're playing at this course today. I'm like, not going. That's on my do not play list.
Yeah.
So you watch some bad hockey and you're like, that team has a very good chance of being on my do not watch list at some point this year. Maybe we get into the new year. We let another month play out. We do the top 5 do not watch NHL teams in the new year. What do you guys say?
I love it. And
we piss so many people off.
Rick Tocchet, you were on the clock.
Yeah.
you got a month to get more interesting.
I did their game last night. I did Philly Montreal last night. This is the kindest compliment I could say to the Philadelphia Flyers. They are terrible to watch, but they're actually not a bad team.
Frankie sat there with his hat pulled down over his eyes the entire game.
Yeah, that's a compliment. If you say that to a coach, they're walking around.
Oh my God,
they're
giving you a hug. That's the nicest thing you can say.
They'd be so happy. By the way, all the listeners out there, save your jokes about the former Maple Leaf playing so much golf that he has like a list of courses he doesn't want to play anymore. Like you're not going to be the first one to get there, so don't.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
Merry Christmas, buddy.
All right, boys.
Like
Merry
I said,
Christmas.
I'll send you a 15-minute long audio note about the Pittsburgh Pirates, and then we can disconnect for a couple weeks and enjoy your time away from us.
All right, boys.
Take it easy.
Have a good one.
All right, we're back. There goes Frankie. Sean, it's time for what we learned.
What have we learned, Sean?
Yeah, for me, it's not so much what I learned, but I was reminded that Joe Bowen is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Love Joe Bowen. Voice of the Toronto Maple Leafs, a long time. TV and radio voice in his final season. Got his flowers last night. Was honored a pregame ceremony before the Leafs took on the Blackhawks, and very cool. Just a good dude. I think every market has that one like local broadcaster that is maybe a bit of an acquired taste, or maybe it's not, the other fan bases don't quite appreciate as much. But as a Leaf fan, I love Joe Bowen. I've met him a few times. He's always been very nice, even though I stole one of his catchphrases. Always makes the same joke about how he's going to send me an invoice or get his lawyers involved.
That's
but
such
so
a
far
great...
has not. So thank you to Joe Bowen for everything, especially being a voice of a lot of very cool moments over the years, and it was really nice to see him honored, and really nice to see the Maple Leafs be fired up and go and play 7 good minutes at a 60 for him last night.
Hey, whatever. The result worked out.
It was enough.
Isn't that a cool part of this job? Like, is being able to meet those guys. Like, I can remember the first time I talked to Mike Lang here in Pittsburgh, and it was just like a holy hell kind of thing.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But I got to say, like, my experience has been overwhelmingly positive. I mean, that's one of those things where when people find out what you do, like a lot of times they think you've got like inside dirt and like, okay, who's a jerk? The list is very short because most people are pretty, including some that maybe come across differently. And then you meet them and you're like, oh, he's actually a cool guy.
I like him. I know.
Dude, I remember talking to you. We won't say the name, and I don't even know if you remember this, but I remember talking to you in a press box in I think in Calgary, and we ended up in a 3-person conversation with somebody who is not always super well liked online, and they walked away, and you were like, I hate that guy is such a cool guy. That's too bad. Oh well.
It's an occupational hazard. Is it you have to humanize people who you've made fun of on the internet for years and years and years and years.
Wait, you're like an actual person, not just a Twitter account that occasionally makes people mad? Oh, I don't like that.
Speaking of that, it's a it's a tangentially related topic. I learned that Dylan Strome says he'll cheer for the USA at the Olympics if Canada doesn't take Tom Wilson to Milan. That comes from Katie Adler of Russian Machine Never Breaks. That's
Traitor.
saucy stuff for Dylan Strome. I think we're probably at the point now where Dylan Strome, Connor Bedard's injury makes it a lot more likely that Dylan Strome is going to be able to cheer for Canada.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
Well, I mean, the Connor Bedard injury gives cover for Team Canada to do what they were probably already going to do, which was pick one guy. And the fact that Macklin celebrated, I mean, geez, you saw what he did last night. He's certainly putting the finishing touches on whatever the argument is. But yeah, I mean, good old Tom Wilson. And here's my question:
17 goals in 33 games, man. Like he's making it stand
when they
up.
put Tom Wilson on Team Canada, are they going to mention those missing 4 feet of ice? Is that going to somehow be spun as a reason?
I think that might come up as an ad hoc justification for sure.
Okay, that's good to know that they've got that their system is so finely tuned that they enter in the rink size and they adjust it, and then it spits out, oh no, actually it's Tom Wilson is going to be on there. Team
Canada has a 35-person front office for the Olympics. I guarantee more than one of them, after finding out that Connor Bedard has an upper body injury and is probably going to be out until after the roster deadline, there were people who were relieved in that room. There had to be.
And he's going to be healthy for the Olympics.
The roster deadline, though. The roster.
But gosh, I don't know.
Think of the roster deadline, Sean.
New Year's Eve, baby. I didn't have any plans that night. That's fine.
What's going for you this week? You got anything good on the way?
Yeah, I got a few things, including one where this is something that has somebody asked me a while ago. We're gonna do all-time teams, Team Canada, of Canadian players playing for Canadian teams versus American players playing for American teams. Who you got? We're going through the whole roster, and then we're doing maybe a mailbag on Friday.
Oh man, we get Quinn on the roster now. Hell yes,
that's exactly that. You know what? There was a whole the after the post hoc news bag, the classic. Yeah, that's always a good one. I don't know, man. Does Quinn qualify? Does he not? There was some dispute. I'll leave that to the reader to figure out.
I can't believe I'm shocked you haven't done this already. This seems like something that should have been.
Don't say that. I always worry about
this. Should have been on the blog spot in 2011 or whatever, dude.
It might have been. It's possible.
Well, if I dig it up, I won't say anything. All right, folks. There's 5 games tonight. We got a doubleheader on TNT in the States. That's Utah, Detroit, and then Devils, Vegas. I'll watch those games. That's good enough to hold my interest. Enjoy that, and enjoy your holidays. That's it for me and Mcindoe until after Christmas. Will Frankie return? Yes, of course Frankie will return. Happy holidays. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell to stay informed and catch new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And in the meantime, you can join our Discord community. We'll see you there.